Hey there.
Hey,
Nice to meet you in person,
nice to meet you in person too. Well, as in person as this is.
as is possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel,
Hey
hey.
all.
Hey.
Hey Hugh, how are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to meet you. I don't know if we've met
Nice
in
to meet
person.
you. We
Yeah.
haven't, but I think I published you on Hex.
Oh, thanks. Awesome.
Yeah. All right,
Oh,
so let people funnel in. Obviously, we're early, and then we also basically take like the first 15 or so minutes to kind of let
okay.
people in. And if people who aren't officially on the lineup want to read something while we let people in, we do that. And then around 15 after, Hugh, you'll kick us off.
Okay. Sounds good.
I don't know how many people were going to get to this one. I did have people ask me for the link,
Mhm.
but I didn't
I had a
realize that
couple
we
ask
had.
And
Cool,
I sent a few to, and some people asked on my end as well.
cool. Yeah, I didn't realize initially when we were kind of working things out that Lo-Fi was doing a reading at the exact same time. Um, but I mean, it's kind of how it had to line up. I know Casey didn't have like a whole lot of availabilities.
Yeah.
So, um, but we usually get a decent crowd in here. It usually seems to range between 20 and 30,
Mm,
thereabouts. Not too
yeah.
bad. Um, and I will eventually get around to uploading these. I've been very, very lazy about that, mainly having to do with editing. I don't know how much I want to edit them or if I just want to throw them up and say, "Hey, have fun with whatever this is."
Mm.
Um, but that's
Trav, did
coming.
you
Yeah,
say we were going to get started about 15 after?
yes,
Cool,
yeah, the official lineup. And
cool.
then like if people want to just kind of like do some open mic one-off stuff during that period, they're
Oh,
welcome
awesome.
to do so. And then we also do that after. We kind of like sandwich it. Except
Awesome.
the part after usually goes longer. And it'll be interesting to read because I just got these horrible adult braces that I'm getting adjusted to and a mouthful of wax so I don't hurt myself.
Oh man, it's flashing back to when I was 16.
No, so I mean I'd looked into braces when I was younger.
Hmm.
I went to like an orthodontist and they were like, we're not going to approve you for that unless we break your jaw. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that.
Oh.
So I just put it off because it was like, I'm not overly concerned with the aesthetic aspect of it,
Hmm.
but I'm now older and it's becoming apparent that if I don't do something about it, it's just going to be hard to take care of them into my 30s.
Hmm.
So there needed to be something done, and I went to a different orthodontist. They were like, "Yeah, we can just do it. They might have to extract later. Jaw surgery might help, but we can do something."
Yeah.
So I'm in braces. I've had them for not quite a week yet, or about a week.
Hmm.
I guess it's a week.
Yeah.
Um, and it's awkward, but not too bad. I'm trying to not lisp too much because there's gear here now. They're
Yeah.
up against the lips.
You'll get used to them.
Right.
Um, my foster brother had a palette separator, so like a key. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think they mentioned appliances for later. I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that. It's gonna be a whole thing, but um, maybe in like 2 or 3 years I'll be hot. I don't
Yeah.
know. See if we can figure that out.
Yeah.
All right. I got chat. Let me move that up there. Hey, everybody, letting people in. And this is always fun because, like, I think at the beginning of these, I was like, just come to me. And then, it still ended up happening where it's like people that I didn't remember or people that I didn't personally give the link got it. And it's just like, okay, everybody just say who they are. Um, Anybody who's reading can kind of like hand it out. So I'm noticing people. I've dropped it in some chats. And yeah, we're still getting readers in. So obviously we're not going to start yet.
Mhm.
But anybody who's not officially on the lineup, if you want to read something before we get started around in about 13 minutes or so, just leave a comment in the chat and I will unmute your mic and you can read something. It can be a poem, a micro, just nothing like too long. Try to keep it within like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes max. Could even be just like a short 30-second poem. Um, but that is always open to anybody who is interested in it. And if you're shy, that's fine too. But all that means is I am going to chatter and you're going to get really, really sick of me. Anybody? Anybody got thoughts? Anybody want to read a short poem? Anybody who's officially on a lineup later want to get some practice in, want to get a rep in? Everybody shy. Everybody shy. Okay.
No, but we could talk about something else. Are you reading anything good?
Am I reading anything good? Um, I have been reading I've been reading Will Cordero a lot.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah.
I'm reading
I
this. Oh, go ahead.
I also got John's collection recently, Waddy, and I have been working my way through that. Even though this is one of the things. So like I'm still relatively new to all this, and I don't know how I want to do with a book because like I get books and I'll like look at the acknowledgement sections or whatever, and sometimes like every single piece in the book beforehand has been published online, and
Mhm.
I'm like at that point like I'm happy to have it like physically, but when I'm like putting together, I'm working on like collections right now, and I'm trying to figure out like what the balance is of like I don't know. Do publishers want everything to be out there beforehand, or do some like prefer that only like half of it is out or whatever? And yeah, I don't know. These are like weird things that I've been thinking about recently, and I don't know if any of the more experienced people can like weigh in on like how to manage that because I'm figuring it out. Tyler is here.
I think at the end of the day, as long as the work is good, that's what matters. Um, I do think that, like if I was putting one together, I think I'd love a few like surprise bangers.
Oh, you're kind of breaking up on that one. Can you repeat that? 'Cause you kind of broke up on that.
Yeah, I
Hopefully that
broke up
won't
a little
be.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but so like the thing that I'm working on right now is like well, I've got the poetry thing, which is just kind of a side right now. Well, obviously I'm doing the fiction right now. And the plan for it is to essentially be 100 flash pieces. And I don't think that I want like all 100 out before I put the book out, right? Um, and I also kind of want to mix it between like online and print, just so there's like I don't know. I get that you can kind of be like, well, it's just better in print, and you don't want to like scavenger hunt it. And there's an order to what I'm kind of doing, and that aspect to it. But kind of the idea of like I don't know, maybe I want 70 of them out, not all 100.
From
I
what
don't know. It's
oh,
nope. You go.
from what I've kind of gathered is I think it depends from press to press what their preference is, but there's
Gotcha.
no like hard rule, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you want to just think about how the manuscript works as a whole.
Right.
And, you know, the mistakes people make sometimes is shoehorning a piece into the manuscript because it was published,
Right. Yeah.
even though it doesn't really fit into the what the thing is doing.
Right.
But, if you've got 100 flash pieces that are published, good on you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm
Yeah,
not there yet. But
yeah,
this is that. It's so.
yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to have time to read the piece that gives the game away on what this actually is.
yeah.
But if I do, I'll just even say what it's basically going to be doing is it is a novel in Flash, but
Hmm.
it is about a person who essentially reincarnates through 100 lives. And essentially, it is very much kind of philosophically tied into Buddhism, like the idea
Hmm.
of samsara. Um, so there's kind of like thematic connections, and then there are going to be kind of like breakpoints in between that kind of ties everything together. And then the last one out of the 100 is going to be essentially a novella that ties all of the previous stories together.
Cool.
Yeah. Um, so they will fit, but it's gonna be interesting to see how it all goes. I've been very, very lucky. I started writing this late February, and I've gotten 10 of the pieces picked up so far. I don't have all 100 of them written right now, but I have a good batch. Out of the ones that I have sent out, I've only sent out 12 and 10 of them have been picked up, so that's pretty good. Uh,
Sorry about that.
no problem. All right, we got more people coming in. Yes, Brian. That's kind of what I was thinking. So like, I mean, at least like the kind of ones. How do I kind of explain how this is going to be structured? There's essentially going to be like an opening piece that sets everything up, and then there'll be like 10 or so flash pieces that are kind of they seem isolated, and they basically are. They work in isolation, and then there's going to be essentially a recurring kind of like way station that kind of wraps up or talks about kind of what things have happened, almost kind of like a therapy session with a deity before you go into another set of them, and then you go back to that space, and then it kind of all wraps up at the end. And obviously these kind of like middle points where they're the kind of the in-betweens, the flight layovers, don't or make sense at all in isolation. Um, but a lot of the other ones do. But even all of those, I would still like most of them to be out. But again, I'm very much of like I have like a site where it's like, oh, you can click all of these things or whatever, and I don't want to be like, hey, I'm trying to sell this book or I'm trying to put this book out, and it's like, but you can read everything for free. It's like I want you people. I want to be a writer of the people. I want people to be able to read most of this stuff and enjoy it, but to have it all kind of come together in a package, uh, things like that. But yes, and I'm going to be reading basically the last two that I got picked up but that haven't been published is the plan for today. I don't think I have um, time for the third that I was going to do because they're two longer ones. Okay, we got more people in here. Does anybody want to read something very, very quick before we get started? Any any open mic interested people? Have to be quick. Or do you like me to just, I don't know, talk about myself more? Feel like an asshole whenever I talk about myself over and over again.
Can
Does
I
anybody else
try?
want to?
I guess
Yeah,
if
you
no
want to read
one's
something?
volunteering. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah,
It's 300-ish words. Is
I
that
think
enough
that's
time?
good. Yeah.
Okay. It's called Counting Down to the End of the World. I always thought I'd kill myself if the world was ending, but instead I'm sitting on a rooftop getting drunk with my high school boyfriend, whom I haven't seen in over 20 years. We ran into each other up here only 3 hours after news broke of the impending doom of mankind. I think we were both contemplating jumping, but we pretended instead that we were simply taking a break to enjoy the fresh air away from the crowd below. Despite the short notice, the owner of Tom's Tavern and his loyal crew of bartenders managed to put together a last-minute farewell party. They thought they'd make the most of the end of the world by hosting a celebration with a countdown and everything, like it's New Year's Eve and we're all excited for the year to come. They're giving away whole bottles for free since you can't take money or liquor with you when you're dead. When my ex saw me, he lifted a bottle of 30-year-old single malt whiskey as a form of greeting. It felt so smooth when I drank it, like gliding down a slip and slide, the heat of it lingering on my tongue before spreading to the apples of my cheeks. He took a swig, letting a few drops dribble down his stubbled chin, and said, "The stars sure are beautiful from here." We've been here for hours now, and I don't think we'll end up jumping after all. It's only 4 floors up, and besides, we've only got a minute left before the asteroid hits. He kisses me gently, the way he kissed me on prom night, the lower lip first before the upper, so tenderly that I can almost hear Enrique Iglesias singing, "I Can Be Your Hero, Baby," a kiss so epic that I'm ready to believe our love will last a lifetime. That's it.
Very, very nice. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, I don't think we have time for anybody else. Hugh, did you want to, here, let me let James in. And then Hugh, do you want to get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, James.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mute my mic. We don't really do like big intros. If you want to intro yourself, you can take these couple minutes. Um, Hugh edits for Mercurius. He's all over the place. A lot of these writers are all over the place. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
great to have you, Hugh.
Th Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to read three pieces and let me just pull them up. So I'm going to read the piece you published in Dodo Research. It's called "I'm Okay at Being a Person, I Guess." A hedgehog runs onto our futon, waking me up. "It's me, Susan," she chirps. "Sorry to be back so late. I was out drinking with friends. We wound up at this party at the witch's house, and someone goes, 'Drink this, and you'll swap bodies with a hedgehog.' And I thought, why not? Hedgehogs are fun, but what about my body? What happens to my body when the hedgehog is using it?" And one of the witches said, "Don't worry, just be the best hedgehog you can be, and we'll take care of the rest." And the safe word, oh, crap, crap, crap. I think I forgot the safe word. Hey, Agatha, do you remember the safe word? Dozens of definitely drunken hedgehogs come running in, snuffling and snorting, climbing up onto the futon and or just getting it on. One or two hedgehogs hanging out in the garden are kind of sweet, but I feel distinctly uneasy sitting in the midst of what is rapidly turning into a hedgehog orgy in our own bedroom. What would Susan's safe word be? And which one of these hedgehogs is Agatha? How many people do I know are now hedgehogs, not minding that it's me watching them cavort, knowing who I am? Meanwhile, how many people now awkwardly ordering breakfast in this town used to be animals, enjoying having hands and clothes and money and not having to kill anything if they don't feel like it? Me, I have trouble socializing. I'm the one who always hides in some corner, avoiding conversations where I'll pounce on the wrong part. I feel jealous that Susan is so much better at being a person than I am, even if she's now a hedgehog. Nobody ever invites me to the witch's house. Not anymore. Someone who looks exactly like my wife walks out of the bathroom, stretching like she's trying to reach that itch on her back, like she used to, but can't quite anymore. And when she sees all the hedgehogs, her face crosses. "Susan," she barks. "Who are you?" I ask the person who looks like Susan, but obviously isn't, while the hedgehog version of my wife is doing the come hither with 3, 4 frisky types. "My name's Agatha. I'm the hedgehog that lives in your yard." She lifts Susan out of the pile. "You and your friends are going to wreck it for the rest of us." "No, we won't," Susan giggles, her legs paddling in the air. Not if we don't use the safe word. Do you know the safe word? I ask Agatha, the former hedgehog. Maybe, she says, tossing Susan back into the pile. But the thing is, according to the witches, when you use the safe word, all the fun stops. The hedgehogs turn back into people, and the people turn back into hedgehogs. As a person, I'm really enjoying how slow you people are. I dare you to use the safe word, Susan chirps, nipping one of the hedgehog's ears. How slow are we, I ask, my own safe word slowly tumbling in my mind, like one of those jars they toss into aquariums with something delicious trapped inside. Agatha gives me a really focused look, like, are we flirting, or did you used to be a predator? The witches must be enjoying every moment of this, scrying at us with their cauldrons and crystals. Why don't we let the hedgehogs be hedgehogs, she decides. Get dressed. Then you can take me out for whatever you people eat at this hour of the morning, and you can tell me more about what it's like to be a person. I feel so flattered she thinks I know what that is. Okay, so the next story is a little more salty, and it's called An Army of Monkeys. And it kind of takes the whole witch's house thing and flips it into a different direction. At the witch's house, I sit in the waiting room along with everyone else who needs to see a witch. We leaf through back issues of Sports Illustrated and Mademoiselle and children so cute you could just strangle them monthly. Upstairs, there is screaming as if someone's being ripped in half, and horrible clinical smells like 1,000 apes trapped in the world's worst zoo before purpose. And now and then, underneath it all, the piteous cries of the sort of person who always loses their nerve at the last moment and begs for it all to stop. The woman next to me has her red pen out. She's making corrections and circling the noses of people in the magazines, people she admires, she tells me. What do you think of this nose, she asks. It's sort of like a ski jump. That's sexy, isn't it? Like the water spilling down from a tub where a person is dying comes the name of the next woman up.
Yep.
Dolores, the voice says gently, so gently. Dolores Crane. Grimly, Dolores packs her knitting away and ascends the stairs. Best of luck, Dolores, we all say, and soon we hear her begin to shriek. Good, serves her right, we all think, as she goes on and on and on, and then dramatically stops. Meanwhile, that woman next to me is crossing out the photography credits, filling in the white teeth of all the grinning faces so it looks like their mouths are full of blood, tearing out last year's poison recipes from a small pile of back issues of Mademoiselle, leaving only useless antidotes. You should try it, she says, after handing me a crumpled ball like it's some sort of present I'm going to need before long. Like I didn't know recipes are for cowards. Obsessive acts are great for getting the magic started, plus it really calms the nerves, she says. If you're diligent, I'm told the witches will even give you what you actually want. She looks at my twice broken nose and everything that implies. But we all know what you want, she says. Everyone there looks at me when she mentions that, like they're all not there for exactly the same reason. Like if they each already had an army of monkeys, then their lives would be perfect. They wouldn't have to ask anybody for squat. They just take and do and fuck up whatever, and all the people in their way would love and respect them and compliment them on their beauty and their wit. Just one pinky in the air, one little monkey chirp, and you know who would just fall over themselves. They'd say, with a nose like that, of course you can keep the keys to the house. And they'd back off quietly. They certainly wouldn't dare ruin, for starters, page by page, all the books and magazines you treasure. Can you handle it? Getting what you want? That woman sitting so close to me asks, her face a network of fine scars like that of a recently retired professional boxer, someone with power who thinks she knows what she is doing, someone who knows I'm always going to say yes to her. She enjoys watching me struggle. All the people in the room enjoy watching each other struggle. All day long, name after name after name gets called to climb those steps. Someone's going to get that army of monkeys. Someone's going to want it badly enough. Can you take it, she asks, like I'm her child, like I hadn't already been featured in the July issue of one of those magazines not so very long ago. Like this is a lesson. But I've got something special in my purse, and it isn't knitting. And if the little monkey breaks my nose every time I reach for her, make her do what I want, so be it. And when I get a few hundred more, well, little Miss Hester over here better watch where she puts that hand of hers. You look so cute when you're seething, the woman says, leaning closer. You should get started on one of those atlases over there before your name gets called. That is, if you really want what you want, Widge. And this last one's short. It's called Panthers. You hate yourself, and everyone knows it. What are you going to do about it? You decide to get lost in the woods as deep as you can go. To make sure you don't walk around in circles, you start dropping little bits and pieces, a button, a key, a torn piece of fabric. Hours pass, you're in rags, nearly naked, but you feel you must be going forward, out of the woods, into the real woods, the wilderness. All the buttons and keys and scraps of cloth you discover as you're walking clearly belong to some other person, someone else who hates themselves. Someone ripped apart by panthers, maybe, but definitely not you. So, of course, in the deepest, darkest heart of the woods, standing in front of the setting sun, the one you've been avoiding, the one you've been seeking, there he is, your double, with a shopping bag full of all the stuff you had torn out and thrown away. Kindly, patiently, while you shiver, he sews and mends. All your lost parts, some bits that he couldn't find, he tears out of his own clothes. You think everyone must think that you're a terrible person. You're stuck in the woods because that's where you're supposed to be, but your double treats you just fine. You're startled at how good a conversationalist you happen to be. It must be past midnight now, the time of floating through. As you're talking, the two of you, you think you see one, a panther, walking beside you, no longer hiding in the dark. If you're going to be lost, you might as well try to stay warm, your double says. There's a house on fire just down the road, if you'd like to hang out. Your mind leaps around all the things you'd like to hold, the things you'd like to hold that wish to destroy you. If I was lazy, I would point out to you a panther, or tell you how much the house that's burning is your house. But only you know what you want. Only you know what will destroy you. I'm sorry you don't believe me or any of this, but you're going to have to love yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. It was great. Um, Again, great sense of humor to what you do. Um, I always yeah. I mean, obviously, I love the hedgehog story. The other ones are get a little bit more grit to them, but they still have a kind of a witticism to them that I really really appreciate.
Thanks.
All right, next up, there's somebody who I guess writes. It's not that there aren't moments of humor in what he does sometimes, but I don't know. I think he writes a little bit more wistful, um, or I don't know, depressing. Although if you do Canada Vacant's pretty funny. I don't know if you're doing that, but Jameson is up next,
Yeah,
and
so thanks, Travis. I would agree with you. I actually am going to read two pieces. One of them is actually a departure. So one of them, I'm not reading Canada Vacant. One of them is I feel like more what a lot of my stuff is, and then another one is a little bit more ridiculous, which is something I don't normally go for. But yeah. So the first one I'll do the darker one first, and then we'll lighten it up. So this first story is called Safari Hotel. It's going to be published. It's not published yet, but it's going to be published in Gonzoid magazine, which is awesome new lit mag. So if you guys haven't read it, check it out. I don't know when it's coming out, but this one's called Safari Hotel. I wonder if you remember that time in the early days, when we bought 50 pressed OxyContin from the dark web and waited outside your parents' house each morning for the mail truck to come by, and when the pills finally came, they were stuffed inside an old Build-A-Bear that smelled like cigarettes. We crushed them up on top of your dad's hardcover copy of Dead Souls, which I didn't know was Dead Souls until you told me it was because it was all in Russian. We crouched in the corner of your closet and insufflated the pale blue powder, and you said you could tell there was fentanyl in there because it didn't have legs, but I didn't know what that meant yet. I also wonder if you remember how our blood got warm and our heads began to spin. We got online and booked a hotel room in Kalahari for the very same night and drove in a daze to Sandusky. We arrived mid-afternoon feeling nothing, with pins in our eyes, and the hotel lobby smelled like chlorine and grease. When we got up to the room, the walls were painted like a Maurice Sendak book, and we shut the blinds so kids waiting in line for the outdoor water slide wouldn't see us snort the crushed pills. We sat in the room high all night, having directionless sex on both twin beds, trying to figure out which we liked better even though they were the same, neither of us reaching a climax, just exploring each other's bodies for the mere sake of it. You tried to order room service but kept nodding off. We weren't hungry anyway. The sun went down, then the sun came up, and we put on our bathing suits and went down to the indoor water park in tired delirium. We sat at plastic tables beside the wave pool, looking straight through each other's eyes, wishing we were back in the comfort of our hotel room with our pills. We got in the water, and I felt my skin burn, and I looked at you, and you didn't seem to mind. The hot tub was a non-starter. It felt like it was stabbing my insides. We went back up to the room to dose again and realized we didn't pack any clothes beside the bathing suits and what we came wearing, so we put on the same old clothes again, then drifted down to the food court and got a greasy slice of pizza, which I promptly vomited back up. I bought a Sprite for us to share from the built-in convenience store because I couldn't afford to. I wondered where all the windows were. We walked to the arcade and played a game of skee-ball, which in a blind, intoxicated rage I claimed was rigged. You gave me a kiss on the cheek and agreed with me, and your lips were dry. We went back to the room and had more languid sex. I can't even call it making love. It was something entirely different. Housekeeping knocked on our door and said it was well past checkout time, so we stumbled out into the fresh spring air, piled into your parents' old sedan, and drove back home, swerving across 2-lane country highways onto the Ohio Turnpike. By the grace of God, we made it back and realized we had no more pills left, so in cold, stoic sobriety, we ordered 50 more. We wondered what we would do with these half-stuffed Build-A-Bears. Maybe we could stitch them up and give them to Goodwill. The next few days, we sat in your bedroom with the blinds drawn. You had cold sweats and restless legs and no pills, so I would pop outside periodically and check the mailbox for the next shipment, which seemed like it never was going to come until it did. I remember those times. Do you? It was the start of the bad times for me, but almost the end of the bad times for you. I'm sorry, I never got to apologize for that time they took the trauma shears to your vintage Woodward Dream Cruise shirt I was wearing. The problem is that it's vintage and no longer produced. Maybe one of one even, so we can never replicate it. If I knew where my life would head after that trip to Kalahari, that trip to that water park, I can't say whether I would change a thing or not. Would you? I'd love to know. Anyway, it's cold outside, dreary and raining, and these chrysanthemums are already wilting, so I'll just place them here on the wet earth and let you watch them wilt. I can't remember if you like these flowers or not, or if you even like flowers at all. Okay, thanks guys. Sorry about the darkness of that one. This one is a little bit lighter, you know? I thought maybe we start with something dark and then go. I don't know if I would call this light, but it's at least a little bit ridiculous. So I don't really ever have like dreams or anything. I don't dream. But one time in the middle of the night, I had this, I just woke up and I thought of the name Milton Sluice. I don't really know why, like sluice, like the floodgate. I don't really know why, but I was like, I got to write a story about this freaky guy named Milton Sluice. So I did. The Life and Times of Milton Sluice. Throughout his short and exceptional life, Milton Sluice had a funny way of narrowly avoiding death. Born on Independence Day in 1995 on the north side of Chicago, he survived weeks in the NICU with the heart murmur, only to go home to a one-room apartment his immigrant parents owned without air conditioning during the historically bad Chicago heat wave of 95. He only survived, they said, because they lived on a block that butted up against Lake Michigan, and his mother would sleep with him on the beach, taking him out intermittently during those endless, sweltering days to baptize him in the greatest water in the world. After the heat subsided, not before taking two of Milton's elderly neighbors, whose virtues their children and grandchildren would extol to young Sluice throughout his sickly childhood, Milton's father scooped a vial full of light and powdery Loyola Beach sand in remembrance of the dog days that almost took his young boy. When he was in preschool, Milton made a rope necklace and used the vial with sand in it as a pendant. He carried it around with him wherever he went for the rest of his life, deciding sometime before he could even remember that that special freshwater sand was his saving grace, his symbolic protector. From his very entrance into this grand and unforgiving world, Milton Sluice passed through life with an implicit and religious belief in providence. Though the years did not go by smoothly, Milton persisted. By the age of 6, he began to have a better constitution, being able to play in cold weather and take trips without falling gravely ill. His first trip was to New York City, where he watched the thick black smoke billow from the falling World Trade Center from his hotel just a bit uptown. He was too young to understand the socio-political ramifications of the event, sure, but the emotional gravitas was not lost on him. In fact, it was his first memory. The somber pageantry gave him an odd fondness for Lee Greenwood's proud to be an American, and for a time, an unhealthy hyperfixation on America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. One morning, while visiting a distant relative in Rockville, a Washington, D.C. suburb the following year, Milton sat at a gas station in front of his mother's van for the very first time. He was excited. As she walked inside the convenience store for a pack of cigarettes, Milton saw a taxi driver at the adjacent pump, gunned down, seemingly out of nowhere. Turns out, it was the D.C. sniper. The image of the man's blood spurting across the warm yellow taxicab hood burned forever in the little boy's soul. Milton came to know calamities as the low hum that soundtracked his life, for the life we live is the only one we know. He always assumed his life would end in an explosive fashion, but never tried to run from his fate. He figured as long as he had that vial of Lake Michigan sand, he would have a layer of protection that set him apart from the masses. Milton Sluice's bad luck that saved him from worse luck continued throughout his adolescence. As he grew into a young man, a teenager really, his physical features less so blossomed and more so stumbled through puberty. It looked like every part of his body and face grew completely independent from each other. It gave him an ad hoc disposition, making for a figure with totally incongruent features. He wore a size 13 shoe, but his wrist was so small he could wear his dead grandmother's gold bracelet. He was short yet gangly, long limbs against a short body, and his small head, beady eyes, and thin lips paled in comparison to his pockmarked, greasy olive skin, stringy hair, and a nose so big it looked plastered on from another face, upon which unbecoming titanium-rimmed eyeglasses set to compensate for his extreme nearsightedness. This nose, due to its impressive protrusion from the rest of his face, caused Milton more undue harm. Though he was a poor athlete, he enjoyed exercise and friendship, so during his teen years, he joined a recreational baseball league. During the last day of the season, a month before his 15th birthday, Milton stepped up to bat in the bottom of the ninth of a tie game. He was still searching for his first and only hit of the season. The pitcher on the opposing team, one of Milton's middle school buddies, was fast and wild, and lost control of a pitch that, for a normal batter, would have been nothing more than a close call, a ball high and inside. But since it was young Sluice, the ball careened directly into the bridge of his protruding nose, bloodying it and breaking it. Milton crumpled up into a ball on the ground as his broken glasses fell to the dirt. His nose clearly busted, his immigrant father plugged it with some pieces of tissue and told his son to go on with his life. But the blood gave him a septal hematoma, which turned into an abscess, which turned into an infection in his brain that proved near fatal. This resulted in not only a costly hospital visit for his parents, but a panicked experience that tested the gumption of even the most composed doctors. His hospital stay lasted weeks. Small potatoes compared to the cost of his life, but Milton, becoming ever more trusting in his mystical vial, was mostly mad he missed the Blackhawks win their first Stanley Cup in 50 years. Young Milton couldn't quite grasp the gravity of his singular existence. By the time he realized that he was in the throes of pubescence and could not appreciate it, in fact, it embarrassed him, much like his face, defining features of his life that made him different from anyone else. But by the time he got to college and avoided his fair share of MIPs, STDs, and deathly hazing events, it became a running joke that Milton Sluice was the man who just won't die. It became part of his identity, even if he held the trust in his vial close to his chest, both figuratively and literally. The realization that being different was good, and the realization that his type of different was a special kind of good, gave Milton Sluice a rapidly mounting, irrational confidence. He became an enigma to those who knew him best. His parents were shocked at this confidence man, thinking of the young, gangly, timid boy they raised, assuming his shtick to be a dishonest racket or at least compensatory behavior for his meager endowment. His former educators and tutors, for he had many tutors, were nonplussed at his sudden academic success. A perfect GPA, a scholar, a valedictorian, for he was never the smartest boy in his classes by a particularly wide margin. His friends were baffled at his good luck with women, totally at odds with his unbecoming mug. Not to mention, he always smelled a touch musty. But most people's love of Milton and esteem for his presence quickly usurped their concerns or confusion in mere minutes. They were just happy for a guy like Milton, especially after hearing his life story. Who with a beating heart wouldn't? Milton Sluice also developed a proclivity for drinking in his college days, and perhaps because of his own perceived exceptionalism, also developed a proclivity for cultural American conservatism. He used his graduation money to take a trip to Las Vegas in October 2017 for a country music festival with his two best friends, Jethro and Bedford. They stayed at Mandalay Bay, and in the days before the festival began, they went on a bender that would have otherwise been the stuff of legends. Cocaine, booze, strip clubs, trashed hotel rooms, shotgun Elvis weddings, the whole 9 yards. The night before the final day of the festival was a particularly hedonistic one. Milton found himself in a hotel room somewhere dark, way off the strip, with a pocket full of cash and a strawberry blonde woman with freckles, dead blue eyes, and an ass out of this world. After a night of passionate and sweaty lovemaking, at least young Milton called it lovemaking, for he didn't know what else to call it, he woke up alone with a crushing headache, blocked up nostrils, and his pants pocket emptied and turned inside out. Even worse, when Milton clutched his hand to his chest, as he was wont to do in the morning, he noticed that at some point in the night, the mystery woman also purloined his necklace vial of Lake Michigan sand. In that desolate moment, Milton Sluice knew the end was near. That morning at the Denny's on Tropicana, over burnt coffee and moons over my hammy, Milton told Jethro and Bedford that he was going to die, which they promptly laughed off and chalked up to the hangover blues. As they trudged, all three exhausted from extreme exertion through the last day of the festival, alternating water with beer, the two friends forgot about that offhanded, ominous portent. Milton didn't. He couldn't even focus on the big and rich set, the act for which he was most excited. Of course, during Jason Aldean's closing set, hell broke loose as a deranged gunman with an arsenal of automatic weapons fired thousands of shots from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, mowing down crowds of concertgoers in what would soon be known as the deadliest mass shooting in American history. In the hysteria, Milton, Jethro, and Bedford somehow escaped the harm, zigzagging through the parking lot and out the gates towards their hotel, not knowing the hotel itself was the source of the gunfire. Sweaty and nauseated, they ducked below fences, hopped over bodies splayed and bloody on the pavement, and made it across the street out of the shooter's sightline. In the horrible hysteria, Milton somehow had a perverse sense of ecstasy rising from within. He had escaped death on the very day it was written in stone. Though he had just experienced another shockingly poor stroke of cultural luck, he yet again skirted death. And this may have been the most impressive example. He survived without his vial. As his friends barged into the hotel lobby to take shelter, Milton stood out front, standing proudly on the valet curb as chaos descended around him, for the first time in his life, feeling freed from the shackles of Providence. Born across this land, east to west, from the Chicago summer of discontent to this divine judgment on American consumerism, maybe he was as special as he'd hoped. The necklace had nothing to do with it. Milton lit a cigarette, puffed his chest out, and looked at the beautiful American vista. This is where dreams were made. The sky was red as blood. The flashing lights looked like artificial fire. From somewhere unknown rose plumes of black smoke. It could have started raining acid and he wouldn't have been surprised. It held deep and solemn beauty, like Patineer's landscape with the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. He was to survive the apocalypse. What this young man didn't know, though, was that the shooter was 32 floors above him indeed, barricaded in his room with a pistol in his mouth. The hotel staff, once they realized the tumor was in their own body, called the police for backup. The Las Vegas Police Department sent a caravan of cruisers flying down the strip, bound directly for the front door of Mandalay Bay. As Milton stood proud, he stepped off the curb and onto the pavement, assiduously puffing his Marlboro Red. In one moment, he felt the overwhelming sensation that he had gotten one over on God. In the next moment, a flying, wayward police cruiser came careening into the porte cochere with reckless abandon, pulverizing Milton's small body. He bounced off the hood of the cruiser like a rag doll, and by the time he hit the hot pavement, Milton Sluice was no longer. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jameson. That was great. Yeah. Not that the first one had like a couple funny moments, but obviously was a lot more serious. I like the Molten Sleuth story, especially as it kind of spirals at the end. Very, very funny stuff. All right. Next up, we have Casey. Casey, are you ready?
All right. Thanks for inviting me, Travis, to crash with my nonfiction. But that's what I do, you guys. Um, I'm going to read, um, actually, this is just like some excerpt from a longer kind of essay project I've been working on. And I think this one is a little more like fun and humorous. So hopefully it's entertaining and you get a few chuckles out of it. There's a hedgehog in my bathroom tiles just above the face of a melting Victorian woman. I'm haunted in the shower by a skull that looks eerily similar to the image associated with the punk rock band The Misfits. To the skull's right is a family of snails slithering away in terror. The pareidolia in my faux marble is unrivaled, coming in far ahead of the fox that follows me from my living room floorboards or the jellyfish in my kitchen counter. My world is filled with these faces upon faces, silently judging every sandwich I make, every trip to the bathroom. Not enough peanut butter, says the fox. Drinking too much water, perhaps, says the melting Victorian woman who has clearly drank far, far more than I. Let them judge. They are fixed in space, and I am three-dimensional, free as a bird in the clutch of the sky. Imagine that pareidolia exists on a spectrum from all I see is a slice of toast to Jesus Christ is burned into that sourdough. Well, I'm the person that can see the vein in Jesus' left bicep. That is to say, I see everything. Santa Claus in tortillas, Elvis in the clouds, the eyelash of the man in the moon winking at me. My husband, G, thinks I should monetize my talents. People want these things to mean something, he says. Maybe you could tell their fortunes by examining similar images in their homes. You might be onto something, I say. How does the pareidolia priestess sound? For a brief moment, it seems like a legitimate side hustle. How many people even know what pareidolia means, he says. G's right, but I can't think of a better name. Plus, people are more than capable of accessing Merriam-Webster online. The word also sounds like an exotic flower, something you would crush with a mortar and pestle, perform incantations over, divine the future in the obliterated petals. Pareidolia, says the Merriam-Webster pronunciation tool. The thing is, I've always hated the idea of knowing the future. I've never understood why anyone would want to know who they'll marry or when they will die or any other such major or even minor life event. You're thinking about this all wrong, says my witchy friend, when I ask why anyone would ever consult a psychic. She just got into oracle cards and is trying to learn to communicate with her recently departed bulldog, Bill. It's more about using signs to let the universe guide you, she tells me. I can get on board with guidance from the universe, though I'm not sure the melting Victorian woman and the other faces in my home have anything important to tell me. My witchy friend might say they're my spirit guides, but that seems like a stretch and possibly problematic. I also couldn't have less in common with a hedgehog. Maybe it would just be like that Christopher Walken character in the old Saturday Night Live skit that could only predict stupid stuff, like people getting ice cream headaches, G says. The trivial psychic, I say, laughing. It was a great sketch. Walken grabbing people by the hand, suddenly struck with ridiculous revelations. Tomorrow, you're going to get a cup of coffee. You're going to hail a cab, but you leave the coffee in the cab. Walken tells an unimpressed Rob Schneider and Phil Hartman. I think I could handle knowing those kind of futures or telling them to others. There's not much pareidolia in my dad's house, but there's definitely something going on there. My cousin G and myself have all experienced fairly demented dreams while staying in the guest bedroom. Armageddon-style nightmares with fires falling from the sky, incubi and succubi sporting twisted teeth and yellow talons. Finally fed up with the terrors, I decide to swing by the local metaphysical store to pick up some sage. The store's interior smells like patchouli and sandalwood, a fragrance that will cloy to my hair and that I will huff for hours after the fact like a new age junkie. A stocky woman with cornrows and square reading glasses manages to suck me into a tarot reading for the first and last time in my life. You're always doing everything for others, but you never look after yourself, the tarot reader tells me, flipping over a number of intricately illustrated cards featuring swords and cups and other vaguely medieval relics I don't understand. She wears many shawls, and I worry about the fringes catching fire in a candle she has burning nearby. You're overextended and burning the candle at both ends. She waves at more cards. I have no children or dependents. Earlier, last week, I stayed in my pajamas until 4 p.m. and ate half a pint of cookie dough ice cream for lunch. I stare at her and say nothing. She continues in the tired mother vein until I'm forced to interrupt. Yeah, none of this really tracks with me, I say. I'm really only here because I think my dad has a restless spirit in his house and I'm sick of it giving me nightmares whenever I stay there. The tarot reader blinks and pivots, launches into some vague talk about energy and ley lines. I tune out the rest because she is clearly not tuned in to anything. When she's finished divining no knowledge of any kind, I grab a bundle of sage and hightail it from the store. The walk back to my dad's house is roughly a mile. As I cross sidewalks and intersections, I imagine a mysterious invisible grid of energy pulsing below my feet, ley lines as supernatural highways. I have no clue, really, what they are or if they even exist. Just because I believe in ghosts and the ability to banish them doesn't mean I buy into everything. My dad lives in a small old Victorian, built around the turn of the century. My cousin and I agree the spirit is definitely a man. I'm positive he has no association with the melting Victorian woman in my bathroom, but who could ever really say? He followed me once from the guest room to the living room, my cousin said in regards to the spirit. I can't say he ever followed me anywhere or what he looks like or who he is. It's just a vibe. My dad is an atheist who has declared anything paranormal non-existent. His world exists on the hard physical plane, pure, concrete, built on scientific method and double-blind placebo-controlled clinical trials. What would you do if you ever saw a ghost? I asked Dad. Assume my weed was fucked up, he says, inhaling said substance. 10 years ago, he acquired a horrible case of pneumonia, so we taught him how to bake his pot into brownies instead of smoking it, though he still lights up occasionally. Sometimes I wonder if the THC prevents him from seeing what he might otherwise. I retreat to the bedroom to burn the sage while Dad burns one down. You will get sick of this house and move on, I say to the ghost in a poor imitation of Christopher Walken as the trivial psychic. Smoke from the sage curls into the corners of the room. When you do, you may stub your toe in the process, but it will be okay because you are a ghost anyway. Whether the spirit evacuates due to the sage or my god-awful impression, I will never truly know, but we all sleep better after the fact. The two-pronged coat hook stares at me while I hover squat in a restaurant bathroom. The asymmetrically placed screws a pair of lopsided, dizzy eyes. Someone has scrawled beneath the hardware, "Drunk octopus wants to fight." It's pareidolia amateur hour, but I appreciate the effort. I retrieve my purse from one of Drunk Octopus's raised tentacles. Anyone can see that he's a lover, not a fighter, a holder of accessories, a cephalopod wanting not punches, but hugs. In the dining area, I find G and my dad seated at a table, sipping on pale ales. I'm torn between ordering carnitas and chicken satay when I catch The Doors' People Are Strange playing overhead. I've always fucking hated this song, I tell them. It's true. It creeps me out in a funhouse mirror, demented clown type of way. G and Dad continue to sip their beers and stare at me. Why? G asks. Gives me Clockwork Orange vibes, I say. In my head, this is entirely self-explanatory. Wrong song, says Dad. That was Singing in the Rain, not Faces Coming Out of the Rain. It's the kind of weird factoid he always has stewing in his brain. I tell them no, it's not about the song from the movie. It's about the vibe of People Are Strange. And the vibe of People Are Strange is a freakish English gang strolling down the street in their absurd white outfits, attacking people. The song implies psychosis, faces appearing when you're strange or affected by strange. I prefer my faces static, fixed in grains of wood or wheat or helpful metallic hardware. That evening, I find myself on Pareidolia Reddit. Someone has posted a picture of a snow-dusted mountain and asked others who they see in the image. I think it looks like the man in black from the movie The Princess Bride. A large majority of commenters thinks it looks like Alex from A Clockwork Orange. Sometimes this confluence of synchronicity rushes in and leaves me stunned because it's so inconceivable. People are strange and life is even stranger, but there's no faces coming out of the rain because here and now they are coming out of the snow on a craggy purple mountain in an online forum, and they're definitely, without question, the Dread Pirate Roberts.
That good? Good. All right, Casey, that was great. That was really really fun. So you say it's like nonfiction. I mean, it's still the way that you tell it. I mean, it still goes absurd enough that it has it bends reality a little bit. Bends reality a little bit. Um, all right. I guess I am up next, and I don't know if I'm gonna do two or three. We're gonna see how I go on time. We're also gonna see how fast I can read and how clearly I can read with these new braces in. Um, all right. So the first one, I know two that I'm definitely gonna do. I'm gonna do the opposite of Jameson. I'm gonna start with the sillier one, and then I'm gonna end on the less silly one. The first one that I'm gonna read is called "Sexy Starts Here." And this one just got picked up by Bending Genres. Should be out sometime in June. And this is about how you can buy everything at the mall except self-worth. I was at the mall food court eating a box of sweet potatoes that looked like chicken wings. I bit into one and it was a plantain. There was a rotating LCD tower next to my mall food court table, advertising plastic surgery on one side and a megachurch on the other. Both were downstairs, and my girlfriend just recently broke up with me, and I was feeling unattracted and separated from the divine, so I decided to go downstairs to reinvent myself. Sexy Starts Here had a bright flashing Comic Sans sign that cycled through 7 different niche colors: Atravirans, Smaragdine, Fulvis, Catalea, Jonquil, New Car, and Zum. So I knew they were legit. After walking in and making an appointment with a 16-year-old secretary who had Neapolitan ice cream hair and an infected bridge piercing, Tucker Wolseley, MD, entered the waiting room and said he could see me immediately. He stressed that he was board certified, as in he was certifiably bored and hoped I wanted to do something interesting. I thought everything in my life was broken, so I said, "Make me look inverse." Wolseley said, "Like inside out?" "Because I can do that. I can turn you inside out. But there could be complications." I told him I meant more like opposite than inside out, but honestly, I'm up for whatever. He said, "Ah, that makes more sense. Let's do that. It requires less paperwork." Wolseley led me to his office, which was filled with an assortment of medieval torture implements. Wheel of Catherine, stretching rack, pair of anguish, breast ripper, Spanish donkey. "Please strip and lie face down on the rack," Wolseley directed. And so I did, and so did Wolseley pull out a large syringe filled with a strange liquid. It was a niche color, but I couldn't tell you which one. On the side was a label, and on the label, written in Comic Sans, it said "Sleep Juice." He neatly slid the needle into the dimple on my left butt cheek. Before I passed out, I saw Wolseley walk towards a back room with a paper taped to the door labeled "Parts." It was plain black Comic Sans on white paper, no niche colors, so I was nervous that the parts weren't good. When I awoke, I was the opposite of myself. I was tall as a mountain, my skin a luscious caramel. My hairline was receding, but my hair was a niche color. My overbite was now an underbite. My genitals were slightly below average in size, but only slightly. I was beautiful. I thanked the good doctor and put the procedure on my tab. I wanted to look my best when I met God and potentially a new love at a mall megachurch, so I went to the tattoo parlor next door. A 30-something man in a beige Ralph Lauren polo and beige khakis asked me what I wanted. I said, to be loved, but let's start with a cross on my neck. I didn't know which denomination the megachurch was, but it was an American mall, so this felt like a smart decision. After the man scribbled it on, I said, "Oh, and let's do a devil emoji on my lower back. If I ended up sleeping with anyone from the megachurch, a naughty tramp stamp could be sexy," I thought. The beige man scribbled it on, and I put the tattoos on my tab. Next to the tattoo parlor was a Spencer's. My favorite band was Frog, an indie band that made off-puttingly horny alt-country music. My ex hated it. I grabbed a Backstreet Boys Millennium t-shirt along with 2 cans of Monster Energy and a butt plug, just in case, and put them on my tab. Then I went to the pet store next to Spencer's. I was a cat person, so I chose an Afghan hound, named him Carmichael, and put the dog on my tab. I was finally ready to meet the Lord. I entered "Salvation Starts Here" with Carmichael and noticed a woman sitting by herself at one of the far back megapews. She was short, pale, and had awful fashion sense. She was the opposite of my ex, and she was beautiful. I asked her if she wanted to pet Carmichael, and she said she was more of a cat person. She said her name was Rebecca. My ex's name was Rebecca, so this surprised me, but she preferred Becky, so I thought this was fine. I lied and said my name was David. We made it about 4 minutes into the mega sermon before I asked, "Do you want to get out of here?" Rebecca nodded yes, so she, Carmichael, and I left, and we put the mega sermon on our mega tabs. Rebecca jumped me as soon as we were at her place, rising on her tiptoes, affectionately clawing at my cross tattoo with her ruby nails. She asked, "Do you listen to Frog?" I said, "Never heard of them." She sashayed over to her turntable, removed the count from its jacket, slotted it on the spindle, and dropped the needle. She undressed herself and threw herself back first onto her unkempt bed. I followed, collapsing on top of her. I went to kiss her, but she smirked and shoved my head down. As the eerie organs of "Bitten by My Love" blared, Carmichael sat stoically in the corner, panting quietly, eyes fixed on my devil emoji tattoo. I nibbled gently on Rebecca's inner thigh. She tasted like plantains. And there's that one. Um, yay, little baby claps. All right. Um, I how long did that one take? That actually didn't take like too long. I might do the other one, but I'm gonna read it off my computer because I didn't print it out. This is the one that kind of gives the concept of what I'm doing away. This one's called Kintsugi. Haven't sent it out anywhere. Yeah, I did send it out somewhere. Okay. Haven't heard back on it yet. But this is Kintsugi. In one loop, I was an artisan vase, which is to say the animists are right. And when I speak of loops, I am referring to samsara, or at least something samsara adjacent, which means the Buddhists were also right. Not entirely right, of course, who is? They were correct about reincarnation, but your soul doesn't transfer to another creature or object on the same dimensional plane. It moves to another universe, which means the multiverse theory posited by so many theoretical physicists is also true, but there aren't infinite dimensions. There are exactly 100, which means Kazutaka Kodaka was right, but he was also wrong, because the multiverse is less of a flowchart or web and more like a linear sequence of connecting flights. Any one of the destinations could be your final destination, and you stop reincarnating when you've achieved peace or purpose or something along those lines, which isn't exactly nirvana, but it's nirvana adjacent. Again, the Buddhists are kinda right. The important part is you only get 100 tries and then you're done. If you lose 100 times, it's game over. You've run out of credits and you go to purgatory. This, of course, indicates at least some measure of truth to both arcade games and Christianity, but only some. Anyways, I was an artisan vase crafted by a scrawny little bastard named Wendell Clevenger. Generously a foppish little twink, generously an inward thinker, Clevenger was one of those insufferable genius types who'd fracture like the light in a funhouse if you hugged him too tight or gazed upon his slate frame with too much passion. He made me with a face, enormous charro lips, eyes that screamed, "Someone, please, anyone, annihilate me from this and all other universes." I looked deeply haunted, and in many ways I was, so he obviously won many awards for his work. I was an anniversary gift for his boyfriend, a professional slap fighter named Brutus Blunk. Blunk once slapped a man with such precision and ferocity that his eye launched from its socket and flew into the agape mouth of an amazed child in the fourth row of the audience. He was a sweetheart, though. He scooped the eye from the child's mouth and gave him a signed copy of his autobiography, An Open Hand, and his quick action allowed the doctors to swiftly reattach his opponent's eye so they could continue with the match. He was a real crowd favorite. After each fight, Blunk would go to the florist and purchase an orange ranunculus, a purple freesia, and a Himalayan blue poppy, gently displaying them within the open wound in my clownish glass head. It felt like a wish or prayer that never came true. Years passed as I observed awkward conversations and even more awkward sex between the couple. Blunk was proudly open, Clevenger deeply closeted. If you saw Clevenger's eyes when Blunk wasn't looking, you'd know how much he loved him. But during intercourse, the timidity and shame caused his eyes to wander, his body near inanimate, corpseous and bony, like a burlap sack stuffed with 40 boomerangs. After one particularly heated argument where Blunk desperately begged Clevenger to go public with him, Blunk could feel him pulling somehow even further away. In a fit of long fermenting anger, he picked me up and hurtled me towards the floor. My garish face split with a loud crack, my clear water blood flowing through the gaps of the hardwood planks. Blunk immediately regretted his mistake and went to scoop me up, like the eyeball in the mouth of a child, but Clevenger said, "Don't bother." Blunk left, and I never saw him again. So Avenger just left me there. And the thing that you might not expect about being a vase is that we don't die quickly. If a human's brain is destroyed or separated from the body, they die within seconds. A chicken will die within minutes, usually, but they can live for months. It took decades for my spirit to leave the vase and cross to the next dimension. And this could be due to some indiscernible cosmic principle, but I think the intent behind the creation of objects is what causes their spirits to linger longer. People are their own works of art, but the ways in which we craft each other often feel so passive and incidental compared to sitting down and making something that expresses exactly what you want it to. Clevenger died long before I did. He cried for a while, then he did a lot of staring. He tried going out for a while and then he stopped. He almost tried calling Blunk, but he didn't. Eventually he stopped eating, and then he just stopped. No one checked on him, and I watched him rot, splayed out and shattered. In another universe, there was a film where The Rock bought Emily Blunt a bowl. It wasn't a very good film. The Rock whined about his tummy a lot. But I remember watching it in a hotel after a fight with someone I cared about. I remember Blunt throwing the bowl like Blunt threw me, and I remember Blunt repairing the bowl with crazy glue. There was a belief called kintsugi, where repairing something that's been broken makes it even more beautiful. And I remember not doing everything I possibly could to repair what had been broken. When my spirit finally left the vase, I hoped that in the next life I would remember how important it is to try to fix things, and I hoped that if anyone ever broke me again, they'd find the courage to glue me back together. Alright, that is number 2. I need to let people in. That's the problem with being the host. All right, and I've got one left. This one is more of a bummer. Although that one's not happy. They just get more of a bummer. They yeah. This one's called Apostles. It just got picked up by Stanchion. Yay! So that'll be in issue 23 later. You should support Stanchion. They rule. Jeff is great. They pay people. They make really good stuff. They actually send you issues. Um, and it's a one man op, and I know it is a massive nightmare to run magazines like that. So I just want to like really kind of stress that. Anyways, this is Apostle, and yeah, this one's not so happy. But anyways, I met Jesus in Juvie. And look, what I did to wind up there is none of your fucking business. What you should commit to memory expeditiously if you ever want to see the gates of heaven is how to speak the man's name. It goes Jesus, like Dr. Seuss or Diane Seuss. Jesus wound up in juvie because he beat the bricks off of this kid who said it like Jesus. Like, golly gee, that was suspect of you. And why would anybody name their kid like that, right? At least that's how Jesus explained it. In Juvie, there was Wade, Zach, Ewan, Kimmy, Amira, Ilya, Marcus, Bryce, Duke, Chelsea, Jude, and of course Jesus and myself were there too. We were all crows of a sort, and birds of a feather and all that. We all had stories. Wade shot a guy who was creeping on his little sister. Ewan had a bit of a thing, a bit of a vigilante Donnybrook thing going on where he'd stroll up in pubs with a fake ID and beat down anyone he saw slipping powder into a glass. Kimmy got caught shoplifting jewelry to sell to pawn shops so she could take care of her younger siblings. Amir turned tricks for the same reason. Bryce stole the weed his dad grew and sold it at school when he found out another kid was selling the stuff cut with bad shit. Chelsea wouldn't say what she didn't do, but she swore she didn't do it. She covered for a friend or something, but admitted it wasn't altruism. She had to get away from her dad, and that's all she'd say about it. Some of us were just goons, maybe, or maybe there was a certain nobleness to our crookedness even we didn't get. We played a lot of cards, Go Fish, Gin Rummy, Texas Hold'em. We were feeling like real cowboys and girls. Duke taught us Tien Len, and we liked that one because we didn't really need to take turns. Jesus always won, except when it was clear someone really needed a win. He said his dad was a gambler, that it was in his blood, whatever that means. We all got out at different times, of course, but we did all make it out. And once we did, we stuck together. Some of us even paired off. Zach and Chelsea had a thing, but it was Ilya and Amira who were really built to last. Jude was a big fan of Ocean's 11 and all manner of flicks, and he thought since no one was hiring straight folks, let alone crooks, in this economy, we might as well do some robberies together. Didn't push it hard, was an offhanded thing, might have even been a joke, but Jesus ran with it, counted us up and called us Jesus and his apostles, or in this case, Jesus and his apostles. Thought it was fucking hysterical, he did. Whole thing felt like a running joke, to be true. Jesus leaned into the Jesus bit. Me and the crew would hit a bank armed to the tips with replica AKs, and Jesus would follow behind in a tattered robe, speaking all lofty and shit. If you weren't on your knees, you were slapping him. We even had our own Bible we'd leave in the vault after we cleaned him out. It was kind of a theological scrapbook of sorts, where we took what we liked, left the rest, and added what seemed missing. It wasn't like we didn't all have our own beliefs, but they just never superseded the belief in what we did. We put Matthew 19:24. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God, right up front. We thought it was funny, but Jesus was actually deadly serious about this bit. He said our Bible is as good as any, maybe better. Some fringe Christian outlets actually started claiming Jesus as the second coming, claiming our little heist as a sort of spiritual self-crucifixion. Most of the media didn't see it that way, though. Maybe if we'd stolen the right money. All good things end as all good people fuck up, though. We tripped an alarm and got surrounded. We went to surrender, but Ilya motioned his replica gun all wrong and a cop shot at him. Blew his jaw clean off. Watched him breathe his last in Amira's arms. Never seen anyone cry that much. Nobody had any will to be angry or resist or anything. Jude ended up taking the fall far as he could take it, called himself the shadow leader, said the whole thing was his idea, and that he forced us into it. We went along with it, but I didn't like it. They gave him the injection. Jude was big, sweet, and quiet. I'm not a sentimental type, but the whole thing felt too Green Mile for me. I didn't like it one bit. The rest of us got split up, sent into different prisons. Me, Jesus, and Chelsea all got sent to the same one, but everyone else was gone. It was okay for a while, but Chelsea couldn't take it long. Me and Jesus did our best to protect her, but men's prison isn't anywhere for a woman. One day, me and Jesus were eating in the calf, and he had his wrist up on the rim of his water cup. He said, "Watch close," and so I watched close. I saw that mostly clear water turn a rich, heavy red. He said, "You can call me Jesus if you want." He started looking drowsy. "And I'll call you Jesus right back." He could barely keep his head up. "We're all dying for someone's sins, ain't we?" I swear he turned water into wine. And that is my last one. Okay. And I am now checking. We got Daniel next. Daniel. Okay, I'm turning it over to Daniel.
Hey everybody. Uh Thank you to Travis and Dodo and everyone for coming out. I'm going to read an old one and one that's coming out next month. So I'll start with the old one. It was published in Whiskey Island in 2015, but I think the magazine is shuttered now. And it's called Old Wives' Tales. In which the boy swallows the pit of a peach. His flesh becomes soft to the touch, and blond hairs cover his body. He bruises as time passes, red and purple. He becomes more round, and his bones go soft. His heart becomes wood-like and almond-shaped. Cyanide flows through his seed, and he becomes a passive danger. Friends call him Nectarine, and he's unsure why or if he should be offended by it. He feels most comfortable hanging loosely from the branch of a tree. In which the girl slides the razor across her calves and thighs and beneath her arms. Her hair, red and thin, is gone for a short time, and when it grows back brown. It irritates the skin. She slides the razor again, and the brown, irritating hair is gone for a short time longer. It grows back thicker and darker still. The hair covers and curls around her flesh. She slides the razor a third time, and when the hair grows back, she suffocates in the protein filaments. In which the boy tugs on himself. He seeks pleasure. The world becomes dimmer as his hand moves quicker. His palms begin to itch. Shapes become less distinct, and corners lose their sharpness. Thick black hairs push through his palms. His vision becomes cloudy, and words become formless. The hairs scratch and irritate the folds of his fingers. They cut across his lifeline. Shadows spread. As the darkness becomes complete, he climaxes. He places his palms to his eyelids and cannot tell whether or not they are blocking his vision. In which the girl sitting on the tree branch picks and splits an apple, wondering how many children she will have. She counts the seeds in the fruit's center. The number is too large. Her stomach begins to swell. The first fetus is formed. The third child is birthed moments after splitting the apple. Her pregnancies are followed by more pregnancies. The seeds inside the apple become smaller and misshapen. The children become the same way. The children are bright and red and crisp-skinned, falling from the branch onto the grass below, in which the boy feels the sensation in the bridge of his nose but chooses not to close his eyes. The television program emits a laugh track as he sneezes. He feels each optic nerve snap free at the visual cortex. He expects to hear a pop but doesn't. He expects to feel pain but doesn't. He expects to see the television glow but doesn't. He reaches for a tissue, but the world has gone dark. Two ejected eyeballs stare upward. He hears from another room, Gesundheit, in which the girl crosses her eyes and lifts her nose upward. She bares her teeth and presents her tongue. The boy laughs at the face she makes. She hears the clicking of mechanisms within her skull. She attempts to correct her vision and relax her face. She fails, and the bridge of her nose remains wrinkled and ugly. Her heart beats faster. Her tongue becomes dry, and her vision blurs. The boy continues to laugh. Tears flow from her crossed eyes, in which the boy sees his father sip from a mug. He drinks a pot of coffee, and the length of his shins decreased by a centimeter. He drinks another and asks, "It's fair trade, isn't it?" The length of his thighs each shrink by 2 inches. He drinks a third cup, and he no longer has ankles or a midriff. His collarbones touch his hip bones, and his hip bones touch his patellae, and his patellae touch his metatarsals. He can walk on tiptoe beneath coffee tables and not risk hitting his head, not even when he jumps. He smiles up at his father, towering above him, in which the girl eats 2 cheeseburgers and 2 helpings of potato salad. She jumps from the hot concrete into the deep end. She backstrokes and butterflies. Blood flows toward her stomach in search of nutrients. The muscles in her arms and legs contract. Pain shoots up her neck. She can no longer tread water. She can no longer move her cramped body. She sinks to the pool's bottom, and only her eyelids flutter, in which the girl does not chew, but swallows the chewing gum. She feels the gum's pink elasticity, feels it sticking to her body's digestive system. Over time, she forgets about the chewing gum. 7 years pass, and she gets married. She feels a swelling in her womb. Her stomach turns pink and elastic. She becomes rubbery and sweet. Her husband chews on her skin. Labor begins. The bubble expands. She pops. Okay, and this next one is going to be in some words, I think next month, and it's called 3 Voices of God. 1. My daughter comes to me with cupped hands. It is just us. The park is otherwise a ghost land. A breeze has begun to push and pull at a chain swing. My daughter comes to me with cupped hands and a coy smile at the Ghostland Park. She is eager to show me what she's found. My daughter's left hand makes the shape of a shallow bowl, and her right makes the shape of a shallow dome. Within is a cloistered, indefinable space. She shifts a thumb to block off an exit point out of the cloistered space. There, in the Ghostland Park, my eager daughter before me, I play along. What have you found? I ask. My eager daughter, with her coy smile, does not unclasp her hands, only opens her mouth into a wide, dark O. The wind is the last great mystery, the voice of God says. Time is not an ocean, but a rivulet. The breeze picks up and something changes. My daughter, no longer eager, drops her hands to her sides. Daddy, she says, I'm ready to go now. 2. The screen on the wall is large and dark. You would be forgiven for thinking the screen to be off, unpowered, but a close and attentive look at the large and dark screen would reveal movement. The movement is subtle, dark gray pixels shifting into darker grays, but it is there. The room with the wall and the screen on the wall is otherwise empty, and the walls in the room are otherwise unadorned. There is no exit point out of the room with the wall and the screen on the wall. There is only you and the screen. The subtle movements on the screen on the wall in the room with the wall and the screen pick up. The pixels are shifting and shifting, about to reach a crescendo of pure dark when the screen on the wall explodes into blinding light. Dizzied, you watch the continued shifting of pixels, track their movements as they fall into place. The point of view displayed on the screen is, you can see, cloistered within an indefinable space. Dark shapes arc above and below, limiting the field of vision of the lens being projected through the screen. When the pixels settle, you recognize your own face framed by the dark arcing shapes, an iris and an eye. There, in the room with the wall and the screen. The U face on the screen on the wall opens its mouth into a wide, dark O. Look what I found, the voice of God says. I'm ready to go now, you say. 3. My daughter comes to me with cupped hands. I have seen this one before, I think, but that's not exactly right. The park surges with life around us. My daughter comes to me with cupped hands and a nervous smile as the living park surges around us. I can sense again her eagerness, though she hesitates. My daughter bends her wrist and the shallow dome lifts up and away from the shallow bowl, just enough to create a small almond-shaped window into her hands, cloistered inside a tiny figure. Though it is dark in the cloistered space within my daughter's hands, mine is a close and attentive look, and I can see that the figure makes subtle movements. The figure is shifting and shifting. This is not quite right either. The figure is shuffling. The dark figure cloistered within my daughter's nervous hands shuffles forward into the light. My daughter has caught a spider. What have you found? The voice of God asks. The spider displays an intricate pattern on its abdomen. I would be forgiven for thinking the spider to be venomous, but the intricate pattern on the spider's abdomen is merely a superficial evolutionary trait developed to deter would-be predators. There, in the living park, I am unable to recollect this particular morsel of knowledge, if I ever knew it at all. I think we should go now, I say, and we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, those are really, really cool. The way that you kind of construct your prose and the themes too. Um, like kind of just anaphora and bursts, talking about like the shadow, the figure, and talking about the mirror and flipping the sentences. It creates this very kind of like palpably surreal effect actually going through hearing the stories, and I imagine also reading that story once it's out in some words. Yes, psyched to read it in some words. Some words is great. If you're not already submitting work to some words, you should do that. Justin is super cool. And yeah, shout out to Justin. We've got two more readers left. Next up, we've got somebody who has been doing the open mics for a while. Finally, booking them for a full slot. Long overdue in my mind at this point, but we're finally here. Bethany, you're up.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Travis. I really appreciate it. Okay. I am gonna do a piece that I just revised for my larger collection of stories that is also linked. It was published in Trampset 2 years ago. Let's see. It's called In Chemistry, We Call This Insoluble. Now, I'm no genius, but I'm pretty sure the new kid can turn invisible. Literally, as in vanishes during the middle of our chemistry experiments. Pretty impressive, if you think about it, considering Mr. Torres's third period class doesn't have that many students. Initially, I figured Sean just disappeared out of class when I wasn't paying attention. Trust me, I'd chill in the restroom stall or behind the gym bleachers too, if I didn't need a passing grade to graduate. But now that we've been paired up, I witnessed my lab partner's body dematerialize before my very eyes. Poof, gone, as if it wasn't even present for attendance to begin with. In chemistry, we call this chromism, which I may or may not be pulling out of my ass. A quick Google search tells me that the process induces changes, reversible in most cases, in the colors of compounds. That's just a fancy way to describe transition lenses and mood rings and octopus camouflage, which sounds similar to the new guy's condition. But what do I know? I don't make up the smart half of our pair. Sean does. Mr. Torres makes it pretty evident that he's grouping us together on purpose. He words our new sitting arrangement like, Christopher will do a wonderful job at getting our new student acquainted, which is just sweet talk for hopefully some intelligence will rub off on our class dunce if we pair him with the former AP student. Asshole. For the record, rumors suggest that Mr. T huffs fumes from our experiments here and there, so he has no room to judge. You'd think with a teacher as twitchy, or in a room as small as ours, somebody would catch on to the disappearing student fairly quickly. But the opposite is true. Nobody notices. I mean, they barely even acknowledge the guy unless they have to engage in a one-on-one conversation. Last week, I passed Sean a beaker to add to our hot plate. The moment our fingers brushed, he blinked. He vanished. Blink. The container fell through the space where his hands had been and shattered across my high tops. Gasp rippled through the classroom, followed by Mr. Torres's shrill, Christopher, what in God's name? Which in hindsight is pretty funny considering Mr. T presents as a raging atheist sworn to fact-based science. That all goes to say, my Sean disappeared excuse didn't land well, even though I was 100% telling the truth this time. Even the pair stationed next to me thought I was full of shit. This leaves me with no choice but to interrogate the source himself. I believe this is the first time I've actually prepared questions to ask for pre-lab. Granted, they're not related to the experiment itself, nor ones to be shared with the class, but that's besides the point. So, where'd you go last Friday? I whispered to Sean. I pretty much almost died without you there. Had it not been for those bulky lab goggles they made us wear, I'm fairly certain I would have needed surgery on my eyeballs. For peace of mind, Mr. Torres more or less let me use that funky eye wash station in the corner. Turns out it isn't fun as it looks. Sorry. Sean's pencil hovers over the gibberish labeled as a balance equation. I had to leave early. Does he mean leave the school or leave this realm of existence? I've never formally met a ghost, but something tells me that one would sport a shade of skin paler than the face of the moon. They'd hover 3 feet off of the ground and speak silent wisps of blank space. As far as I know, Sean is the most regular-looking 11th grader I've ever met. He's one of those guys that I see blending into the background when no one's looking. Literally. Question number 2. I point at his California Republic crew neck for reference. Did you ever go surfing while you lived there? Once or twice. I wasn't really good at it, he says. Why? Because maybe he fell off of his board and almost drowned, only half coming back to life via chest compressions. I don't know. The guy isn't really giving me much to work with. I scrambled for an excuse. Thought that's what everyone did on the West Coast. Sean gave me a measured glance through his goggles, which, thanks to my accident, are now a requirement even during pre-lab questions. You ever go cow tipping, he mimics? Heard that's what Midwestern folk do when they're not shucking corn. I don't care that it's an insult. It still makes me snort. Groups seated at the far end of the lab crane their necks to see what makes chemical reactants and products so hilarious. Sean's shoulders hitch with a chuckle. I toss my eraser at him and he swats it back. A shadow slides in from behind, hovering over our chairs. Are we chatting about reaction kinetics, gentlemen? It is in this jolt of surprise that I sense an uncanny shift in my surroundings. Subtle, like a light bulb winking out. I turn to my lab partner to see if he feels it too, but a gasp renders me speechless. Mr. Torres hasn't noticed it yet, but Sean Patterson's stool is vacant within seconds. Come on, Mr. Torres. Look at the swollen backpack left behind. Look at the worksheet with his name and date at the top. Look. You know, Mr. T, we're both struggling here, but my dumbass doesn't know how to even word the questions, I say, nudging my partner's chair with a kick. I think Sean over here would be better equipped with what to ask. Mr. Torres pulls the biggest betrayal of all time by rubbing his face and glancing at the wrinkled helium balloon snagged on the ceiling lights from an old class demo. We don't use that kind of language here, Mr. Davis, he sighs, turning to assist a pair with their hands raised. I drop my head into my folded arms. A pencil taps the countertop beside my ear. We should probably complete questions 5 and 6 before the bell rings. I bolt upright. There he is again, Sean Patterson, in the flesh, slouching over our worksheet as if he'd never left in the first place. How'd you do that? I sputter. Do what? Violating the new science lab policy, I peel off my lab goggles and gape at him. The blush of sun cooked into his skin, the cowlick in his hair fluttering under the vent, the wrinkles in his shirt crowning his grizzly bear design like a halo. If he's a ghost, why does he look so real? He pushes the paper to my side of the table. At least write something down so he doesn't come over here again. Oh, don't worry. I smooth my hair down and press my goggles back over the red creases in my forehead. Mr. T is a real one. As long as we act semi-interested in the subject, he won't blow us up. I'm sorry, he what? I hike my thumb over my shoulder. Betcha he owns all the materials to craft a bomb in that closet back there. Sean follows my fingers with his eyes. Mustard gas, maybe. Flipping her worksheet over to the back, I scribble. If the average number of passing grades on this unit exam decreases, then Mr. T will cook us up a lethal dose of gas. In chemistry, we call this hypothesizing, a term our teacher beat us over the head with. My partner slides the paper out of my reach and reads it with what squinted eyes I assume passes as a smirk. For added effect, he underlines the independent and dependent variables and scoots the page back across the table. So, the guy's got a sense of humor. I can work with this. And then there's a scene break. You've got to ease into the funny stuff, says my best buddy, Nora Zhang. Tilt your head this way. Nora's lucky I let her practice her makeup on me during the weekends. But her brother Brock lets me play Call of Duty Black Ops on his PlayStation, so it all evens out. A symbiotic friendship of sorts. With my free hand, I poke at a zit masked with concealer. What do you mean by that? Humor is the staple of our friendship. Even now in our company, I'm playing the game wrong for shits and giggles. There's this bit I do on Hardcore Team Deathmatch where I troll my own teammates. This guy, Shadow Reaper, can't for the life of him comprehend why my character, Mike Hawk, won't get off his ass. Every time his figure crouches behind a corner, I shoot the ceiling to give away his position. His mic'd tantrum teases a good laugh out of us. What I mean is, no dick jokes, Nora explains, pressing an orange powder that tickles like pollen in the corners of my eyelids. No causing a scene, no yearning to use the eye wash station. Joke's on her because I've been there, done that. Only reason I haven't told her the Beaker story yet is because I don't fully understand the logistics myself. But maybe an outsider's insight is just what I need. He's hiding something, Nora. I just know he is. Nora, distracted, flicks her brush toward the screen. He's crouched behind that cabinet there. Well, now that she mentions it, I nudge Mike Hawk behind Shadow Reaper so that we're practically spooning. The moment my teammate turns to face me, I slit his throat in one satisfying strike of the knife. Shadow Reaper screams, "Are you fucking kidding me?" My friend and I splay across the bed, cackling. From somewhere in the duplex, Brock's neighbor yells at us to keep it down. To Nora's dismay, I rub my eye and smear her progress. No, but what I mean is the new student. Dude barely talks, Nora. I can't figure him out. What do you expect? Nora says, reaching for the cleansing wipes. It can't be easy leaving your entire life behind to start over. I know, but it's like a part of him died. It feels like he's not even there. We're on the verge of something huge. I just don't know what it is yet. Part of me wants to skateboard to the public library and look up Sean's condition. Can you believe it? Christopher Davis wants to research in his free time. I set the controller down and kneel in front of my friend. Nora, what I'm about to tell you is pretty absurd, but I need you to hear me out, okay? Nora starts to laugh until she catches my expression, stoic under layers of powder and cream. Something behind her eyes clicks. There it is, a true friend's fidelity breaking through. She grabs my wrists and squeezes them. That's how her brother walks in on us, practically nose to nose atop his rumpled sheets. His mouth opens, closes. You two better not be having clown sex in my bed, or else you're not allowed over here anymore, he says, grabbing a pair of drumsticks from his nightstand. I let go of my friend's arm. Nora's still looking at me, waiting for me to share my bizarre discovery with her. The stretch of silence exposes Shadow Reaper's voice over the TV speakers. Anyone want to switch over to Search and Destroy? He offers to the game lobby. My cock won't stop messing with me. Brock stops and turns in the doorway, brow raised a good inch above his wired frame glasses. Another player replies, You should probably see a doctor for that. That does it. All three of us fold over and holler. And then another scene break. Experiment day. First one since last week's disaster. It's a shame shattering a beaker caused such a setback in Mr. T's freaky enthusiasm, because now his 10-minute lecture on the iodine clock reaction is a soul-sucking ordeal. Once I filled Nora in on Sean's invisibility trick, we narrowed down our potential conclusions to 3 possibilities: freak accident, advanced evolution, or alien disguise. Even then, our theories led us to dead ends, as no book or online article came close to describing what it meant to straddle presence and absence in the blink of an eye. In chemistry, we call this insoluble. I'm resting my head on the freshly disinfected counter when the boy I wasted my weekend researching materializes beside me. There's nothing to say, so I give him space. Once we've measured out our reactants, he has me start the stopwatch while he introduces 2 clear solutions to a beaker. We wait. Sean stirs, swirling around a little whirlpool of nothing. I watch time accumulate on the stopwatch in rolling numbers. No explosions, no oozing, no smoking. Anticlimactic experiment, if you ask me. Blink. In my peripherals, the liquid zaps black. I suck a breath through my teeth. Whoa. Cool, Sean agrees. Similar reactions trickle through the neighboring stations. Remember, scholars, what gives the product this property? Mr. Torres says to the class, rubbing his hands together like a fly. I myself am feeling especially nefarious in this light. While dumping our inky remnants down the drain for the second trial, I snag a pipette from the cabinets and approach my partner from behind with a loaded weapon of science. If such a reaction holds the ability to turn liquid from clear to opaque in an instant, who is to say whether or not such an effect is transferable to a whole person? My lab partner straightens. What are you doing? Nothing. I drop my arm to my side. Just screwing around. I swear, I see it. The faintest flicker of transparency. The equation on the whiteboard just barely peeks through his torso. That's it. All he needs to do is wink out of existence. Then I'll be able to test my theory on the negative space he leaves behind. Sean shakes his head. Screwing around is all that you do. Oh. That stings a little, coming from the new kid. Channeling my inner Mike Hawk, I go ahead and sabotage the very friendship budding us by raising my hand. Mr. Torres, I call. Sean thinks you're making failing students huff mustard gas in your closet. Tell him that isn't true. The pencil Sean is holding drops and clatters on the edge of his empty stool. I aim the pipette in his direction and squeeze, a pull of the trigger. Our magic substance splashes across the counter, across our observation worksheet, across a flinching body, but not the one I'm manifesting. Mr. Torres gapes at the asshole that just splattered him with chemicals. In chemistry, we call this screwed. Thank you.
All right. That was really, really great. Yeah, again, like locking in with the scene change once they're talking about with the game stuff, and then just from there on I was like completely like wrapped up in it. Yeah, that was really, really fun. So I was entranced. I think I've read that one before. I might have. I've like looked at your site before. And I've heard like Descendants of Sharks, and yeah, so that was really, really fun and really engaging. We've got one left. He's already unmuted his mic. He's got a PowerPoint presentation for us, I believe. We're we just had a school story, and now we're gonna have some class PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentation.
Well,
All right.
yeah, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves with regard to the class part, but I'm not sure Travis knew what they were getting into when I reached out to them last night and asked if I could do something interactive. But I'm also not sure I know what I'm getting into, but I love bar trivia. And I did a version of this at AWP with in a restaurant full of drunk writers and families with young children. And so I have adapted it here and turned it into a PowerPoint. And it retains the interactive element, but does not involve coming off mute unless unless the spirit moves you so to do. So welcome to Trivia Night here at Dodo Eraser. Tonight's topic is going to be how well do you know your pop music urban legends? And to that effect, I have a QR code which you can use to participate in trivia if you want to get a screenshot of this. I also have, if it's easier on everybody, Here is a direct link to the actual quiz, if that's easier for you. I've been looking at this picture of John Bon Jovi and cracking up because he looks like the cover of A Little Life. Um, but anyway, let's start. So, question one. Blank once swallowed so much semen at a party that he, she, they had to go to a hospital to get his, her, their stomach pumped. Is the answer A, Rod Stewart, B, John Bon Jovi, C, Lil Kim, D, all of the above, E, just A and B, F, just B and C, or G, just A and C? Question two, which is not a symptom of swallowing too much semen? Is the answer A, shortness of breath, B, euphoria, C, vivid hallucinations, D, skin rash, E, shock, or F, failure to thrive? Question three, what is the recommended immediate intervention for swallowing too much semen? Is the answer A, induced vomiting, B, aromatherapy, C, a brisk walk, or D, ginger ale? Question four, how much semen is too much semen to swallow? Like, what are we talking about here? A liter, a quart, a pound, a kilogram, a thimbleful, a truckload? What? Question five, Rod Stewart, John Bon Jovi, and Lil Kim get together once a year to have breakfast at their favorite greasy spoon. What is their preferred seating arrangement? Is the answer A, booth, Rod Stewart and John Bon Jovi on one side, Lil Kim on the other, B, booth, John Bon Jovi and Lil Kim on one side, Rod Stewart on the other, C, booth, Rod Stewart and Lil Kim on one side, John Bon Jovi on the other, D, four-top table, occupying 3 chairs, and whenever a guest at a different table asks if they can borrow their extra chair, Rod Stewart gets a frisky gleam in his eye and tells the guest no, that seat is reserved for the 4th member of their party who's just running a little late. And when the guest turns to walk away, the 3 of them begin snickering. E, counter seating, all in a row, side by side, from left to right, John Bon Jovi, Lil Kim, and Rod Stewart, because Lil Kim admitted at one of their previous get-togethers that she enjoys being able to watch short-order cooks prepare meals. And ever since then, John Bon Jovi has always tried to arrive a little bit early so to ensure that he secures those 3 seats, all in a row, with Lil Kim, 4 feet 11 inches, positioned in the middle so that when and if needed, Rod Stewart, 5 feet 10 inches, and John Bon Jovi, 5 feet 9 inches, may talk over her, not around her. Question 6. What are their individual food orders? Is the answer A, Denver omelet, Rod Stewart, Texas toast and jam, John Bon Jovi, iced latte and hash browns, Lil Kim, B, waffles with blueberry syrup, Rod Stewart, chocolate egg cream, John Bon Jovi, corned beef hash and strawberry smoothie, Lil Kim. C, oatmeal dusted with brown sugar, Rod Stewart, grits with Tabasco sauce and 2 pats of butter, John Bon Jovi, half-thawed acai bowl brought from home, Lil Kim. D, black coffee and keep it coming, Rod Stewart, black coffee and keep it coming, John Bon Jovi, black coffee and keep it coming, Lil Kim. Question 7. What is the informal nickname that the group has given itself? Is the answer A, 2 guys, 1 girl, B, the Boys and Girl Club, C, Senior Mafia, Mafia standing for Masters at Finding Intelligent Attitudes, D, the Semen Allergy Awareness Advisory Group, or SAAAG? Question 8. At the diner, what statement causes the conversation to come to a screeching halt? The group was informally riffing on the infamous torture skit from Wu-Tang Clan's Enter the 36 Chambers, and Rod Stewart spent several minutes describing a torture method so outrageously baroque and violent that it cannot be reprinted here. B, I'm giving serious thought to removing leather-based products from my clothing line, John Bon Jovi. Or C, have you ever gone into a record store and bought a copy of your own music? Not to see if the clerk would recognize you per se, but because you wanted them to tell you either verbally or via the expression on their face which person you were. The one on the album cover, lingerie clad and poised cat-like on a bearskin rug, bouquets of roses exploding like fireworks around you, or the one standing across the counter, bundled into a leopard fur coat that's 2 sizes too big, gazing upward with a sheepish smile and puffy eyes, Lil Kim. Question 9. How do Rod Stewart, John Bon Jovi, and Lil Kim fill the awkward silence that follows? Rod Stewart makes a vague hand gesture that the rest of them interpret as a signal that he is ready for the check. B. John Bon Jovi builds a pyramid of coffee creamer containers. He would futz around on his phone, but his dumbass left it at home. Or C. Lil Kim puts on sunglasses so that Rod Stewart and John Bon Jovi can't see her eyes. Question 10. What do Rod Stewart, John Bon Jovi, and Lil Kim do once they've said their goodbyes and gone their separate ways? Is the answer A. Rod Stewart, a noted model railway enthusiast, walks around Manhattan carrying a briefcase full of miniature building models, impeccably designed turn-of-the-century warehouses with red brick facades and jutting smokestacks. When he finds a gutter with the right amount of puddled filth, he opens the briefcase and dumps his little warehouses into the street to ensure that his miniature replicas will have just the right patina of urban grit and grime. B. John Bon Jovi wanders the streets until he stumbles upon one of the last working payphones in Manhattan and uses the last miraculous quarter he finds in his pocket to call his wife of 35 years. When she answers after 3 rings, he asks her to please remind him what her favorite color is. C. Lil Kim returns to her Bed-Stuy apartment, reactivates her dormant Cameo account, starts working through the backlog of requests, something she's been meaning to do for months. She wishes her fans a happy birthday, happy Valentine's Day, happy Mother's Day, happy engagement, happy divorce. She gasses people up, she tears people down, all in good fun. In one message, she is even asked to read selected passages from the Communist Manifesto and quote one of her most famous album skits, the one where she says, "I'm a send you a kite with a pair of my panties attached to it." She is, she notes with some surprise, up for anything. Pretty soon the 5-star reviews start rolling in. Lightning turnaround time, her reviewers enthuse. Kind, warm, and funny. Highly personalized and very sincere. Heart hands emoji, heart hands emoji, heart hands emoji. My mom loved it. She was everything I wanted and more. Lil Kim sits in her compact kitchen, gazing into the wondrous mirror that she holds in her palm. She sends cameos to fans all through the afternoon and into the evening, and when she finally looks up from the screen, the streetlights outside her window are gleaming, and the phone is red hot in her hand. Okay, hold on. We're going to tabulate the results here really quickly. Oh my God, you all won. Congratulations. You've all won trivia tonight. So my thanks to you for participating in my interactive trivia game. And thanks to Travis for having me. This has been wonderful.
Right. Yeah, like I said in the chat, thank God that went on last. I mean, can you imagine that going on like third, and then after that somebody just has to, read. Everybody had wonderful stories, but I mean they were whatever the hell that was. I don't know how you do anything after it without at least some sort of recollection or pause or something. It was a really, really fun way to close things out. That being said, see, as soon as I say that, I'm like, okay, let's open the floor to open mic. Um, but if you guys want to like chat for a few minutes while we while those who need to catch their breath. By the end of that, I think by like question 6, I was just like done, and I'm just spiraling. That was excellent. And I feel like I need to play with these like I mean personally one of the reasons that I'm liking doing these kind of engaging with the different forms and things because I have like different ideas for things but I loved that the kind of question based absurdity spiral of that Tyler who is in the chat who's been listening. I absolutely adore his fucking story in X-Ray recently, the board game one. I am absolutely obsessed with it. It is incredible. I've been gushing, but if you haven't read the board game on X-Ray, you absolutely need to. It is hilarious, but beyond it just being hilarious, it is weirdly touching and affecting. Um, Probably my favorite piece of writing to be published out this year online. So highly, highly recommend that. And yeah, one thing that I want to do before I guess we move into the open mic thing is I want to announce what we're doing next as far as readings. We are going to miss May, just because we're at the tail end of April on this, but we are going to have a very early June reading. And let me just bring this up so I can not get lost on everything that we are doing. Where is my... Get that poster somewhere. See, I need to actually find the chat now. My God. There we go. Okay, so details on the next reading is going to be June 9th. And the lineup is it's a poetry reading. Okay. All right, later, Hugh. But our lineup for June 9th is it's going to be poetry reading. We're going to have Cletus Crow, Z.H. Gill, Ava Lumar, Lily Merrill, Nat Ram, Nora Ron, and Bobby Vanecco. So that is going to be early June. And I'm very, very excited about that one. Um, the other thing that I want to mention, we have taken a publishing break this month. We're going to start publishing again next month. So next week we are going to be publishing again. It's going to be a slightly reduced schedule. I'm thinking Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, just so I can be very selective about what goes up. Doing the everyday thing, I was starting to feel like I was maybe gonna start coming up against publishing things that I liked but didn't love. And I feel like this puts me in a good position where I can be still very, very happy with everything that goes up. So that is the idea behind that. That's all I really have to say. And now, if basically anybody wants to read anything as our kind of winding down open mic period, you are welcome to. Just let me know in the chat. See, people were shy beforehand. I don't know if anybody is fired up before, because I've been like that before, where it's like, I don't want to do anything. And I listen to everybody go, and it's like, now I want to do something. Does anybody want to do anything? Or is everybody chilling? Okay, Tyler's leaving. Okay. Um, I am going to every. Ah, there we go. All right, Major Jameson. All right, I'm gonna put you on. Everybody, stick around for this. So it might be a preview of things to come.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute
Amazing.
myself now.
Okay. I'm gonna be reading something that will be out in Scaffold. It's a prose poem and it's pretty short, so I'll just get right into it. Also, I'm Rania. I don't know how many of you know me, but it's nice to see you guys, and everyone did such a great job, so I felt really inspired. So this is called Explaining the Permanence of Death to My Little Brother. It's like when Butterfree left Ash in Indigo League. It's like when they shut down the Little Big Planet servers forever and we tragically lost all the Escape Jeff the Killer levels. It's like when you die in Minecraft hardcore mode. You can't respawn, your inventory is strewn across the ground, everyone else has to pick up the mess of your life before it disappears in the next 5 minutes. Since the world doesn't have the bandwidth to keep all your things floating in a gentle rotation, inches off the ground. All the animals will wait in oak houses, next to chests filled with stacks of dirt blocks, because they don't know that the real dead don't come back. Please try to understand that she won't come back. No more terrain of impossible cliffs and floating islands. No more deep caves with veins of iron gleaming by the light of a square sun. We have to sort through all these chests. The bad news is that Grandma might have had a hoarding problem, but when you have had nothing for so long, you tend to keep even the trash. 5 years ago, I realized I also had a hoarding problem when I went through my closet and concluded that it smelled just like hers. Since then, I've been obsessively decluttering, my life now an exercise of how much superfluity I can excise, of hollowed rooms, of how much restraint I can practice until I'm bordering on the ascetic. The good news is that you can have the first pick of whatever you want from her things: a saddle, golden horse armor, a pickaxe, all fine choices. I know that it's confusing. It won't make sense now or for a long time, but I'll tell you a secret. If you stand exactly where she died, you can absorb the little green orbs of her experience that she left behind, and with them, you can press her essence into something that will protect us from the loss of her. You can get the Sharpness 3 enchantment on a glinting sword. In a couple of years, you'll be so bitter with grief at everyone that ends up dying in this family that you'll end up more straight-edged than I am. It's around this time that you'll know exactly what the sword was for, and the grief, and the hoarding, and the metaphors. Thank you.
That was, yeah. I understand why they got picked up. That was really beautiful and powerful. It was good. Does anybody want to follow that? Anybody feeling bold? Josh, do you want to do anything? Uh, Macy, anybody? There's a certain point I'm going to call it if nobody says anything. Is everybody just tired? It's like 9 here. Is everybody fucking old or whatever? Hugh had a reason. It was like in the middle of the night. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna give it count of 10. If nobody types a letter in, I'm gonna call it 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, Josh. Josh is looking now. Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll do Josh and then we'll call it.
Okay, I'm pulling up something new. I so regret not being here earlier in the evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little staticky, but we can make it out.
I was so regretting not making it earlier in the evening, but I'm glad that I made it for most of John's piece there, the PowerPoint trivia. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that with
Yeah.
us.
All right, I'm gonna mute
Uh,
myself. You go when you're ready.
Great. I'm pulling up something new. Right now, I'm taking a poetry class with Mind Palace Poetry. I don't know if anyone knows Carson Jordan or any of the rest of the Mind Palace gang, but highly, highly recommend if you get a chance to take a class with her or anyone else on the squad there. This is something new. I'm trying to write this series of poems where I speak from the perspective of a dumbass, which is the same maybe myself. So this is new. It's called "Please Stop, Wait, Don't Tell Me." Made it through another day without thinking, not even a little. Every time I looked at the clock, it was time to get up and move. Now I'm watching the dust building up in piles at the baseboards, like how the grit gets caught in the crevices in your cleavages. My friend Maeve offered me a 3 card reading, and I said I can't bear to learn a single other thing. I am through fucking around, I perform seriousness, and I am finished with finding out. You hate when I call myself a dumbass. I say it's my best feature. We don't eat breakfast anymore, so the ever cartoned eggs stay whole. Refrigerator door permanently closed. The light is on, or it isn't. Consider if I don't open the box, for me, the cat is always alive. Therefore, if I don't open the box, then the cat is always dying. If I don't open the box, there is no cat, but a light that is on or isn't. We can talk dirty if you want to, but please stop. Wait, don't tell me what you've got under all there. Please leave a little room for mystery. Thanks for letting me read something.
Thank you, Josh. All right. Thank you for everybody coming out to listen or read both. A lot of fun. Again, I loved what everybody did. That the the trivia was a new thing for us. It was very fun. And I hope John doing that kind of maybe inspires some of us to get a little bit more I don't know, interactive or just do weirder things with how we want to present these things because obviously we have the page and that's the primary method by which we kind of do things, but I'm kind of curious as to how I can be a little bit more of a show person now. And yeah, that was fun. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. Hope you make it out to the next one. And I'm gonna call it for tonight. All right. See everybody.
Night, y'all. Thanks, Travis.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Hey. All right. I am going to sign off. It was great to have you. Great to have everybody here. But I'm going to end it now. All right. Later.